In the previous video analyzing the first aspect of the lore and world of Mirror's Edge Catalyst, I talked about who the runners are, what they do, and the individual main members that we meet in the Catalyst storyline. In this video, I look at the story behind a faction known as Black November, and how a conflict grew between them and a greater power. The greater power can only be known as the Conglomerate. I also studied the story of Rebecca Thane, who is the founder of Black November, and who we first meet about halfway through the Catalyst storyline. She's also involved in a series of dead drop recordings known as surveillance recordings in this game that take place during the November riots. There's quite a bit to talk about since this is the start of a series of war-driven history that Cascadia holds. So without further ado, let's begin this history class. So in order to start talking about Black November, we have to talk about who the hell Rebecca Thane is. Like mentioned a bit earlier, she is the founder of Black November. The reason behind its founding was due to her absolute rage caused by the violent disaster that is only known as the infamous November riots, where some of her closest friends were killed. But let's backtrack a wee bit. Rebecca was an idealist and a proponent of workers' rights and social justice. She was known to have an aggressive demeanor, which was ramped up after the riots caused her to be more driven by revenge, and I mean ramped up. She always suggested somewhat violent decisions against the government and corporate. She was rivaled by other movement leaders like Noah and Faith's parents Martin and Erica Connors. But when the Connors were killed in the riots, Noah evaded and stuck to the rooftops, while Rebecca was left to continue the protests. It was soon after that when Black November was born. Black November is a resistance movement first and foremost, an organization built to take down the Conglomerate in any way possible. Black November also makes an appearance in the Exordium storyline. Interestingly enough, we even see Celeste from the original game have a deal with them in this storyline. They provided her with protection and allowed her to travel through their territory. In exchange, Celeste had to provide her group of runners to do runs for them. But things went to absolute hell when Celeste had another deal with Black November, where she had to steal a prototype cancer vaccine for them. They would have to give Celeste enough of the synthesized vaccine to cure her sister's melanoma cancer. Now what's wrong with that, you may ask? Well, during the exchange of the vaccine, Faith stole it and made a run for it. But unlike the freedom fighters from the runner side that kept things a bit low-key, Black November was hardcore. Correct me if I'm thinking about this the wrong way, but those who were close to Black November groups in any way were destined to be targets. Reason being is because Black November had a stance. The stance being, quote-unquote, that there are no innocent civilians in the struggle and that anyone not fighting the Conglomerate is indirectly supporting it. Therefore, they are all viable targets. And I mean, some of it is justifiable, but just because some people don't want to be involved in riots doesn't exactly mean they support the powerful conflict, the big bad enemy. Some reality talk for a moment. To send a message to the government, there must be a large group of people that have to fight for a change. But the catch is that riots are so damn dangerous that not everybody wants to be involved in it, which means you're going to need a few people to die for your request. For example, I have some respect for the people who are fighting for improvements of human rights in society, and I very much agree with their message. But I would never want to be involved in a riot. Riots can go from peaceful to extremely violent, and I don't want to be caught in the crossfire. Coming back to the fictional but semi-realistic world lore of Mirror's Edge, Black November are kind of making innocent people who don't want to be caught in a violent parade targets, which is very wrong. And this kind of makes Rebecca a cold character because in her bio it quotes, "The general population Rebecca considers to be sheep, unable to govern themselves, and as their self-appointed shepherd, she intends to lead the flock to the greener pastures. It's a long, hard road, and if some are lost on the way, so be it."
Hey, it's me.
Wait. Nanda. Is that you?
How are you?
How am I? Where the hell are you? Are you in glass? The whole city is coming apart.
Don't worry, I'm safe. And I'm in glass. I just wanted to hear your voice.
Tell me where you are, and I'll send my people to pick you up. The rioters are killing people out there.
No, it's not the rioters. It's Krugersec. They started it.
I don't care. It's not safe. Tell me where you are.
No, it's best this way. I'm gonna fight them. Martin Connors urged us to remain peaceful, and they killed him. And his wife, too. God knows what happened to the kids. I gotta go.
Nanda!
I love you.
Now before I get to the Conglomerate, I want to briefly talk about the Parts Diverged recordings, which take place during the November riots. Now admittedly, these recordings are a little hard to break down since the mini storyline within them isn't 100% clear, but I'll try anyway. It follows a woman named Nanda, a friend of Rebecca and a possible love interest of Dogan, a mysterious crime boss. She survives the November riots and tries to escape the city. But while she's trying to escape, there's someone who is looking for her, supposedly hunting her down since she says that she can't let him find her. Not yet anyways. She goes on to say,
He's not dangerous. Well, rather, he's very dangerous, but not to me. He loves me. That's part of the problem.
Now I would assume that she's talking about Dogan, but to who is a mystery. Nanda also mentions a she, which could refer to Rebecca or a mystery woman, saying that
You need to stay beneath the radar for a while. He's probably got you pegged already, and that's fine. But that's also why I can't tell you where I am right now. And she can't know either. She must never know that me and him are connected. So please don't say anything.
in the next recording it becomes very much clear that the mystery woman is indeed Rebecca, saying,
You're right. She's psychotic. This is not the right way to fight the corporations. I'm getting out. And you should too.
which I couldn't help but agree with. Rebecca is a questionably violent leader, but this recording raises a question about her position in Black November. It continues,
Not only that, but I found evidence that someone else is pulling her strings.
which raises two questions. Is Rebecca the true leader of Black November, and who is this mysterious person pulling the strings? Lastly, I want to talk about Nanda. In Parts Diverged recording number 2 and 3, Nanda is heard conversing with Rebecca about some secret. And I have a theory that Nanda is undercover working with Rebecca. She even mentions a secret project which would later be known as the Reflection Project. And I also have another very rough theory that Nanda might possibly be Aline Mera, who we meet later in the game. I say rough because looking at her bio, it doesn't really add up, but her voice and her involvement with Reflection very much does. And from what I remember of the Catalyst storyline, I think I did hear her mention Dogan once, at least. But that's all I have to say about Black November and the Parts Diverged recordings. Finally, we move on to the infamous Conglomerate. The Conglomerate has reigned supreme in Cascadia for about 14 years before and during the Catalyst storyline, but technically they were kind of in power about 2 decades prior. The corporate houses, who are the wealthy people, have entrenched themselves firmly since the founding, and most of the mid-caste and low-caste, who are the middle class and upper class, from what I understand, believe that the current system is the best one out there, with almost nobody wanting a return to what happened during the Omnistat era, which is a piece of Cascadian history we'll get to. The Conglomerate has a policy that dictates the do's and don'ts that apply to every Cascadian and tourist who comes to live in Cascadia. This is a strict code of conduct, and don't we love codes of conduct, safety rules and other regulations that affect the lives of those who are employed. Those who break the policy are sentenced by Krugersec without trials. There's a decent variety of punishments that policy breakers could face, from temporary suspension of selected rights all the way to contract termination. Severe offenders are permanently demoted straight to outcast, while casual offenders are demoted by 1 caste, which implied that you could build yourself back up. Because of this, some outcasts go out into the grey lands, some outright disappear, and if you're like Nomad, some become runners. The Conglomerate have placed surveillance cameras all over the city, keeping close watch on its people. The Conglomerate also supply everyone with a biometric wristband called a grid-link. A grid-link basically tells the Conglomerate who you are as well as your financial status, whether you're a low, mid, or an outcast. If citizens disabled their links, it was considered grounds for contract termination, with a few chances depending on whether it was by mistake or victimized crime. But outcasts and off-grids have no grid link whatsoever. That's how much the Conglomerate doesn't really care for the extremely poor. In the Cascadian history document titled "The Conglomerate Seizes Power," it is said that among the general populace, especially the mid-caste, there was an outrage at the protesters due to the damage and deaths caused in the riots. So the Conglomerate called out the assembly and their ineptness when it came to handling the situation. Large gatherings and protests were forbidden, strengthening the Conglomerate in the process. The assembly took minimal measures, yada yada yada. And the Conglomerate declared the assembly unfit to rule Cascadia, with oppositions to the declaration disappearing, which meant the Conglomerate was able to rule the nation that was Cascadia. The City of Glass was selected to be a symbol of the Conglomerate's greatness, and the rest is kind of unimportant to the situation. So what sparked Black November to be at continuous war with the Conglomerate? That is what we're gonna find out. The policies of the Conglomerate and their rise to power led to and was the result of the deaths of many people, and they kind of just swept it under the rug. Rebecca and many others, including Faith, lost some good people in that campaign, and the Conglomerate widely disregarded it. So Black November's goal to take down the Conglomerate is mostly driven out of revenge and fighting for a greater freedom. But there's a problem, and it's mostly out of suspicion, concern, and distrust. What if Black November were to take the Conglomerate's place, especially with Rebecca behind the wheel? Remember, Rebecca is nearly as dangerous and as hardcore as the enemy factions in the world of Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and at times she's really selfish. She could easily go from a supposed freedom fighter to a powerful killer governing Cascadia, while literally discriminating against everybody in association with Krugersek and the Conglomerate. Okay, I might be jumping to conclusions or reading too much into it, but if you've played through Catalyst's campaign and listened to what Rebecca says and how she says them, you can more or less see what I'm trying to say. Rebecca is a woman purely driven by revenge. So if she were to fulfill her goal of overthrowing the government, would she feel like she accomplished something and just let the runners or whatever ally faction take over? Most likely not. While Black November in general are they're supposed to be good guys, Rebecca is far from a good person, hence affecting the overall moral status of the group. It puts them in a grey area. They're like anti-hero freedom fighters battling a bigger evil until they win and they become the new bigger evil. I really wish the Catalyst storyline properly utilized the subplot, because by the end of the campaign, when Faith says that everything that happened throughout the story didn't mean a single damn thing, is when the subplot begins to feel pointless, and with much better writing, better characters, and an overhauled narrative that feels rewarding and makes characters' actions a bit more intelligent and nonsensical, this subplot could have been fairly intense when it comes to the character actions, and we might not ever return to this world of Mirror's Edge, let alone return to the series. Now there's a few little details and mini storylines I didn't cover in this video that regards Black November in a mild way, and that's through this game's audio logs and such. But the parts Diverged audio logs felt a bit more integral than the others. But overall, Black November is a slightly challenging subject and entity within the lore and world of Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Their morals are skewered by one out-of-hand character, whose tough and dominant personality paired up with a bloodthirsty goal results in a troublesome member of Cascadian society, not only to the Conglomerate, but to the runners as well. Rebecca is cold and brutal. She lacks empathy, she's not willing to listen and understand the other side. Compared to the runners, Black November sticks to the shadows and are armed to some capacity. Many of the members are dark and mysterious, like ninjas in a dystopian future that we barely see in action throughout the game. Black November's involvement in the Catalyst storyline constantly reminds me of how dense the lore and world of Catalyst is, but how badly it's implemented into the main storyline. I have yet to properly read Mirror's Edge Exordium, but from what I've heard, the stories in these comics are much better executed than what Catalyst has to offer. I'll get to that at some point. In the next video, I'll be looking at a much grander tale of a much grander scale. We'll be stepping away from the factions a little bit, and we're really digging into the world of Catalyst. In the next parts of the lore and world of Mirror's Edge Catalyst, I'll be analyzing the many aspects and stories of cascading history. Okay, a little channel update. So from now on, I won't be just simply reviewing, analyzing, or critiquing games. I've already started the whole character study and lore analysis thing on the channel, and it's been received decently for the most part. The Black Ops video is suffering quite a bit, but it's understandable due to its unpopular topic, but it's out there. But from now on, I'll be doing a lot of dissertation type videos. So I'll take a game and analyze a certain feature, aspect, or factor of said game and talk about it in depth. A good example being an upcoming video of mine, which should be released after this video, which talks about the deeper themes and story behind the original Hitman 2, being Hitman 2 Silent Assassin. So look out for that video coming soon. And for those who checked out and liked the Black Ops video I did regarding Seraph and the 54 Immortals, I made a pretty good fan fiction that is only available on Google Drive at the moment. It'll be coming to Wattpad soon though. Basically, it serves as a deeper character study based on Black Ops 4's Seraph and that world. It takes place before Project Blackout and adds some more backstory to Seraph and the key members of the 54i that could actually make sense within the context of Black Ops 4's lore. So, check it out. The link will be in the description. That's all I have for now. Everybody stay safe, stay entertained, take care, and take it easy. Cheers.